Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Unlocked, the podcast that inspires you to create a successful, happy and positive life and to live the best version of you. Hosted by me, Ricky Locke, professional magician, speaker and trainer who has an unhealthy addiction to Frazzles crisps. As this podcast is designed to help you create success and live a happy and positive life, don't forget to head to the show notes and you can download my free ebooks, 10 tips to improve your productivity, and even how to create awesome videos with a smartphone. Just head to the show notes of this episode and download your free resources today. Welcome to this episode. It is lovely to have you back, and if you are here for the first time, then welcome. I hope you enjoy this episode with Lee Houghton. Now, fans of the show, you remember last week that I mentioned to save the date. The 19th of March 2021, I'm running a free webinar and Q&A live on Confidence on Camera. It is completely free and I would love for you to join. If you're hosting live videos on social media, maybe you run presentations on Zoom for work and absolutely hate or even feel nervous showing your face or even speaking on camera, then this is the event for you. I'm going to be teaching you all the tricks and tips that I've been using over the last 15 years to convey confidence on camera. I'll be sharing top tips for speaking on camera, how to get rid of those pesky ums and ahs that all fall out of our mouth when we get a little bit nervous or a bit stressed being on camera. I'll be sharing top tips for a confidence mindset and even simple techniques such as framing and lighting, and of course, so much more that will help you be more confident on camera. It's free and it's on the 19th of March and registration for the webinar is out on Wednesday the 11th of March. It'll be limited numbers, so check out my social media to make sure that you get registered for the event. So in today's episode, I'm joined by a guy I absolutely love. In fact, I only met him this year, but instantly I wanted to connect with him. Lee Houghton is a multi-sector leadership and change team coach, and he's a very jolly and funny guy, and he was absolutely brilliant to talk to. He has a very powerful story to share, and from this, he shares 3 amazing life lessons that we should all ask ourselves if we want to live the best version of ourselves. It is a great episode, Lee is fantastic, and I think you'll have a few smiles and inspiration to take away. If you enjoyed this episode, please head over to Apple Podcasts and hit that subscribe button and leave a review and a rating. It really helps the podcast get out to more listeners. Without further ado, enjoy this episode with Lee Houghton. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Unlocked. Today I have Lee Houghton. Welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks very much, Ricky. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this all day. So thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think it's my fault. I should have got back to you. And then I think you prompted me to say, Ricky, are we going to do this or not? And I was like, oh yeah, we should, shouldn't we really? So yeah, so I'm really excited for this. Thank you for joining. Are you well? Are you keeping safe? Are you having a good week so far?
Yeah, I'm really good actually. Yeah, really good. But I thought you'd read a book. Do you know them like dating books where it says, don't reply to them within the first 3 minutes of a date or something? I thought you were just applying that to your podcast. So you've just not replied for a couple of weeks just to make me keener. And honestly, it has worked and I am chomping at the bits for today.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Well, that's good. That's good that I've created a bit of a FOMO for you, fear of missing out, that you wanted to record the podcast for me. So, well, thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. I think for all the listeners, they're going to hear a lot of wonderful stuff. And again, as I always say in each episode, there's a lot of value from this because you have a fantastic story to tell, which I'm not going to dive into just yet. You'll be able to do that in a second. But one of the things that I like about you is that we've only met recently, quite like a lot of my episodes recently. But we met through a great connection, Mr. Pete Can, the Clubhouse legend, laughter yoga leader. I don't think he does any work. He can't be. He's on Clubhouse all the time. So, but Pete, if you're listening, thank you so much. Pete is the laughter yoga leader that you will probably all hear in episode 3 or 4 if you go back on the podcast. And he connected with me because I was interested in connecting with someone else. And he said, oh, you need to chat to this guy. And then we got in touch. And one thing that I think is really, really cool about you, Lee, is that you have a random life journey. And I've done some research. So you are a podcaster, a DJ in pubs. You're a children's entertainer. You're a children's author. And you're even a monkey in Yates. And I can't wait for everybody to hear this story because even though that sounds like there's some really interesting things there, Lee has a really cool story. So Lee, let's tell everybody, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, thanks very much, Vicky. So when you said that you'd done a little bit of research, there's other things. I've also been an internet marketer. I've had a SEO optimization, but I've had such a random journey to get to where I am. But primarily 15 years, I've been doing business improvement and coaching people and teams and businesses on how to make today better than yesterday. That's my bag. And I fell into improvement 15 years ago because my manager at the time in the public sector said, we've got this opportunity. We think you'd be really good for it. So improvement found me. I didn't find improvements. But then at the side of that, I was DJing because my dad had always DJed. And I used to help him with his boxes and stuff as a teenager. And I thought, I really like this. And when I turned 18, I did my first gig. And I always remember doing my introduction. I always played Robbie Williams, Let Me Entertain You. And I press play on that one because there's a bit in that song where it goes a little bit quiet. And I had a little bit of an intro that I'd been rehearsing. And I pressed play, and then I could see the people out in front of me. The lights went down. And I was like, I can't do this. And I went and hid behind the speaker. So imagine you're a guest at a party. Robbie Williams has just started singing and playing. And then you look up on stage and there's nobody there. So I was hid behind the speaker. The music went down and then I went, good evening and welcome to Sinead's 18th birthday party here at Sacred Art Club in Chorley. If you've got a song you want to play, blah, 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 blah. So why don't you? And then Robbie comes in and goes, let me entertain, right? And then another song went on before I had the confidence to step out in front of everybody because I wasn't as confident as I am now. And then I think this confidence thing is kind of what I'm now finding, actually. I've had a massive confidence journey. So the DJing helped me with that. But then I always remember when I was a kid, I was sat on a wall at back in my mum and dad's garden, frightened to jump down. So they had to help me down. And then 2 years ago, I skydived from 15,000 feet. So confidence has played a massive part. And that's what I try to do now. I try to help individuals, change people leaders, be more confident in doing what they're doing. So that's kind of like I've picked little bits. My dad said I never had a proper job whilst I was working in the public sector. So then I thought, right, this improvement stuff I like, I'm going to go and try it in other places. So then I've tried it in different places, tailoring my CV to be an improvement consultant. And then 2.5 years ago, I set up a business with my business partner called Jason, called Get Knowledge. And that's what we do now. We work with businesses to help them improve the productivity whilst delighting the customers and people. That's the official line. And also help individuals with their confidence. So that's kind of the randomness of the journey, with the DJing at the side, dressed as a monkey. And at a point in my career, I had a decision to make. Did I choose improvement or did I choose DJing and entertainment? And I looked at my dad, and he was probably about 58 at the time, something like that. And I thought, I don't want to be doing it when I'm 58, because he was working away, or like working Friday night, Saturday night and stuff. And I thought, I'm going to have to choose a proper job. So I did. So then I just DJed part-time until my little boy was due to be born. And then I hung up the monkey suit. And then this is what I'm doing now. Very random. Yes, children's author. Could talk about that if you want. I'll just a little bit. I was sat with my kids one night reading a story. My boy was probably about 4 years old. Little girl was 2 years old, 1 year old, something like that. And I thought, you're not getting anything from this story. It doesn't rhyme. There's no moral to it. I'm going to write one myself. 5 children's books later, I can now classify myself as an Amazon author. So I've done it myself. So there you go. That's who I am. That's what I do. And that's part of the randomness of the journey that I've, it probably explains why I've got nowhere as well.
I love that. I think that it's really fascinating for you to talk about the confidence there, because from what I've known of you, it's only been a couple of weeks or months now, that I don't see that at all. I see this really confident person. You know, you're leading clubhouse rooms from around the world. You're talking about random stuff, fascinating stuff that there's no way I would have thought that. So there's been a massive shift in that. Where did that confidence shift come from then? Yeah,
unbelievable shift. And I think, and in fact, actually, so I'm not sure when this podcast is going to go out, but today I've relaunched something on LinkedIn called Tub Talks, and on Thursdays it's going to be Tub Thoughts, where I sit in the bath and I record a video in the bath and I put it out on LinkedIn. And I think about my bath journey on LinkedIn. So I will answer your question in a second, Ricky, I promise.
Yes, all right.
You did say we've got
quite interested where this is going. Yeah, the bath, yeah.
You did say we've got 3.5 hours to record this.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So I was like, Tub Talks on a Tuesday, Tub Thoughts on a Thursday, and I sat in the bath and I record videos. And then I think so I was working away probably about 18 months ago for a consultancy, doing improvement stuff, and staying at a Marriott hotel, and I was scrolling through LinkedIn and I thought, there's not very many videos of people doing what I do. So I'm gonna pluck up the courage to record a video. So I sat down in the seat at the dining seat in the hotel room, and I like recorded a video just talking, hi, how are you? Well, this is what I think. So it's probably about 2 years ago now, something like that. And then I thought, scrolling through LinkedIn, no, I didn't get much engagement, but everybody's got the same kind of video. So what could I do? I know, I'm going to get in the shower. So I was like, all right, okay. So then, so the week later, I'd be back and I'm like, right, okay. I got myself a tripod and I set the tripod up and I hit record. I got in the shower, turned the shower on, and then I pulled back the shower curtain and started talking. And then I uploaded that video really quickly after that. I edited it, obviously, because there's a getting in and getting out of the shower scene.
I was going to say, there's got to be a lot of B-roll.
Yeah. So I edited the video, put it on, and then went down for my dinner with the colleagues that I was working with, and I just saw some sheepish looks. I was like, what is it? What is it? You've got the same shower as us. Oh, wow. Okay. So that worked. But then I watched the video back and you couldn't really hear it very well because it was a little bit loud with the water. So I thought, I'm going to get in the bath next time. So I did the bath. So yeah, so that's what I do now because I'm not overly bothered about what people think of me. But before, I was the kid in class that when I was at school that was I hated putting my hand up. I always remember like the creeping death of when they're going around the room to either read a passage from a book or answer a question and you're counting down the time. And I wasn't concentrating on what they were asking. I was concentrating on, okay, 7 people to go, 6 people to go. I'm going to forget me words. I'm going to go red. Everybody's going to look at me. And then when it'd be my turn, I would not say what I wanted to say. I would cock up my answers and then beat myself up afterwards. So this kind of like feedback loop that I'm in, my thoughts driving me behaviors and so, which I'm familiar with now and I wasn't familiar with then, that crippled me as a child, crippled me. I've asked my dad this last week, actually, to go through all of the any videos that he's got of me when I'm younger, where it looks like I am lacking a little bit of confidence. And he's got a video where I'm sat at the top of a slide and he's always laughed at this video. So I'm sat at the top of a slide and I'm like there going, and it's like my brother's with me. And I must be like 8, 9 and my brother's a couple of years younger than me. And I'm just letting other kids go past. I go, no, it's all right. You go before me. Because I was frightened, sat at the top of the slide, letting people go down. So my dad thought, I'm just being really polite, but I'm shit scared at the top of a slide and just letting people go because of that fear, that thing inside me. And so my confidence journey has been nearly as roller coaster like as my career journey, but I think everything I've done has allowed me to learn a little bit and to try to get over it. But it's really only been these last 2 or 3 years where I've been really, really comfortable. Another little story for you, actually. I've got tattoos. So this is my right arm, and like 2 inches from my wrist is where my first tattoo started. I went into the tattoo artist about 8 years ago, and I said to him, can you do me a tattoo on my arm? And he said, yeah. I said, don't start it at my wrist though, because I don't want people to be able to see it. I'm conscious and worried what people will say, and the stigma attached to tattoos. So I said, just do it there, so I can just like put a shirt on and stuff like that, because I was more worried about what people will say than I was about the reasons for the tattoos. And the tattoos, I've got my boy and my girl's handprints on my arm tattooed, my dates of birth so I don't forget them and stuff, and all sorts of different things that mean something to me. So because I've been more conscious about other people, and only recently I don't care what other people think now, because I'm going to be me.
Definitely.
I'm going to be me and there's reasons for that as well. So when we've been talking, I've said like 2-3 years ago, and that's been a pivotal moment in my life for one massive reason. And you started this about I had a story to tell. And I do have a little story to tell. Am I all right to tell the little story now?
Yeah, of course. I was just going to say, I'm sitting here with tears. The listeners who are listening back to this on audio won't be able to see this, but I've got tears just from laughing. I've got to say, Lee, before you share your story, you're very similar to me. I think we're different ages, aren't we? I won't say for the listeners in case you don't want to share. But when
you say different ages, do you think you're older or younger than me?
I think I'm younger than you.
I knew you were going to say that.
I've got more hair than you, so yeah. No, sorry, Lee. But yeah, so one of the things that is very similar to me, like with the magician journey and the training journey, there was a point where I think I had to make that decision as well. But I was similar to you, where I asked my mum and dad this not too long ago. I think it was just the end of last year. As a presenter and a performer, I asked my mum and dad, where do I get this from, mum, dad? Because, were you presenters or performers? Did you want to be? And then, Ricky, we haven't even got a performance bone in our bodies. We've got no idea why you are like you are. So I do think I'm adopted. Yeah. They'll probably explain why I've got blue eyes and they've all got brown. So anyway, so we'll bring it back in here. I love this idea of how you shifted. And I think what you're about to reveal, your story, is probably led to that shift. So yeah, you have a wonderful story. If you don't mind, please feel free to share.
Yeah, no, perfect. No, thanks for that, Ricky. So the story, I'll start that. And I think that is a pivotal moment in my life where things have kind of ramped up far more. But I think because of the DJing stuff, and I started that when I was 18 and hid behind speakers, but then over time became more and more confident and then being able to dress up and not worry about that. So I think I've become more comfortable with different situations, but only now am I more comfortable with myself, because I think confidence is quite situational in nature. And what I've established is that, I've had a really random career, which has allowed me to be more comfortable in a lot of different situations. Whereas if I'm just doing the same task, I'll be comfortable in that. I would have been comfortable in that one task, but because I've been so varied, I'm now comfortable in a whole host of different things. And I think that plays a part in it. But in fact, actually, Ricky, when I tell this story, I typically ask a question that starts with, do you have a friend that you might not have seen for a week or a month or a few months, that when you get back together, that it's like you've not been apart, there's no gap there?
Yeah, definitely. I've got two of them. Yeah, really good lads. Yeah. So if it's been like a long time, you just pick up the conversation. Yeah,
yeah, completely, and I do as well. A guy called Chris, and we grew up together. I moved into the same street as him. So my mum, with my mum and dad, obviously, I was 1 year old. I wasn't loaning my own mortgage and house at that age. So we moved into a street next door, but 3 to Chris. And my mum quickly became best friends with his mum, and they would go walking together, pushing prams together, and stuff like that. They both ended up having 3 kids at the same time, and me and Chris were the eldest of the 3. And we went to different schools because of religion. Really, he was Catholic and we weren't. So that was the only reason we went to different schools. Anyway, so we went to different schools, but we still stayed close, and so we had different friends and different journeys. But that thing about, actually, it might have been a week or a month or a couple of months, we would come back together and it'd be like we'd never been. And then about 2.5 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I was working as an employed consultant on a site in London, and I got a phone call from one of our friends to say that I needed to come home because Chris had taken a turn for the worst. So I went to London Euston Station. I got on the train. This was Wednesday lunchtime-ish. And I got back to Preston about mid-afternoon. The times are irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with the story at all. Anyway, got in a taxi and got to St. Catherine's Hospice in Preston, where I walked into the room where he was, and his sister was there, his ex-partner was there, one of our other mates was there. And I looked at Chris, and he was lying down, and he looked a lot frailer and like sheet white as well. So he was like really, really pale. And we went and give him a hug. And then I said to everybody, I said, it's all right, I'll do the night shift tonight with him. I'll stay with him and let them go, because they'd been spending a lot of time with him and stuff, and I'd been away for a few days. So I set up camp and unfortunately I had my overnight bag because I've been working away. So I set up camp on the couch. And we started talking. It was like a one-way conversation. But what was beautiful about that day, he'd always wanted to, and I've never shared this bit actually. He'd always wanted to get people, because he had 2 boys, 14 and 16 at the time. He'd always wanted people, when it was like coming to the end, he wanted to put a Facebook post out and go and basically say, it's coming to the end. What I'd really like you to do is just show one picture or a memory that you've got that his boys could then see how loved he was. So we posted that post, and throughout the night I was able to go through those and show him some of the stuff. And anyway, 10 to 8 in the morning, my breakfast was due at 8 o'clock from the hospice. It was just tea and toast, nothing fancy. And I got up off the couch, and I just said to right, Chris, I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to go and freshen up. And I went into the bathroom. I brushed my teeth. I had a wash, and I came out, and I looked over at Chris, and his chest expanded. And then that was it. He'd chosen that moment to leave, which,
wow.
Which, if I think back, when he was first told that he was terminal, the consultant left his room at Preston Hospital. I went into the room to see him, and we started talking about death. So I was the first person to see him after the consultant had given that news. There was no more medication they could give him, and we were talking about death and stuff. And there was another nurse in the room, and they went, "Do you think I'll be able to? Do you think I'll know when the time's coming? Do you think people know?" And we had this big discussion, and people talk about this, don't they? That people get to choose or people don't get to choose. And then the nurse said, well, yeah, some people believe they can and some people believe they can't. And we were talking about Chris's mum, who'd passed just a couple of years before with the same type of cancer. And we all believe that she waited for a particular moment before passing. And Chris, he looked over and he went, "I'll let you know, Lee. I'll let you know if you can tell, right?" So then I've walked out of the bathroom, and his chest has gone up, and then he just paused, and then that's it. He's gone. That I honestly, and people think I'm crazy, but then to have that conversation and then to see that moment, I think there's more than a coincidence. Anyway, so that happened, and I made a few phone calls to tell everybody that the time had come and stuff. And I went and sat outside St. Cath's. And I was sat outside, and the sun was beaming down. I was like reflecting on my life, and I was thinking to myself that I've got 2 young kids, and every single morning I tell them they can be whatever they want to be when they grow up. And I was thinking to myself, I'm a blooming fraud, because I don't have my own job. I do have my own job, but I don't have my own business doing what I love. And I've always wanted my own business, and I've just been plodding through life, trying to please other people, like we spoke about before, and more bothered about that. And then I started to reflect on Chris's messages that he said before, because do you follow football?
No, not really, no.
Okay, I'll skip this part of the story then. No, I'm looking at
So I know what it is.
Yeah, that's the important part. So when he was ill, him and his 2 boys were coming around to my house to watch a Champions League final, Liverpool versus Real Madrid, the Champions League final that Liverpool lost. And he came around to my house, and he drove around. He was ill, but he still did it. And he got at the bottom of my road. There's a roundabout, and a car had pulled out on him on that roundabout. And then he came to my house. He went, "You never guess what happened?" I said, "What?" I said, he said, "This car pulled out on me." I said, "Yeah." He went, I said, "What did you do?" He went, "Nothing." I said, "What?" He said, "Nothing." I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean nothing?" Because Chris was always one of these people who would flick the V's out of the window. He'd drive up behind them, maybe follow them home and pull up on the drive behind them, because that really riled him up, and that really frustrated him. And he went, "Well, it didn't matter, did it? It doesn't really matter, does it?" And that stuck in my mind, and that sticks in my mind now so much, because when he was told he was terminal, and he said, "I'm going to come into a bit of money," he's going to extract his pension and stuff. He said, "You've always wanted to have your own business, and let me give you a few grand to set you up." I was like, "No, I don't want any of it. That's your boys' money. That's the boys' trust." But I said, "What I'd really love you to do is to just reflect on your life a little bit." And if I'm honest, right, I'd wanted to ask him this question so many times before, but I'd never had the balls to do it. And there's something inside me just said, "Ask the question now." And so I asked him the question. I said, "Would you just reflect on your life and tell me what the 3 most important lessons are that I can share with people when you're reflecting on your life?" And he was like, "Bloody hell, Lee, I wish you just asked for the money. That would have been far easier." So anyway, over the coming weeks, and whether it was at his house or at the hospital, I would go and see him. And I got there once, and he went, "I've got the first one for you." He said, when he was splitting up with an ex-partner of his, he said he tried to be somebody that he thought she wanted him to be. He tried to be somebody that he thought would be able to make the relationship last longer. And he said it didn't make him happy. It didn't make her happy. And they still ended up splitting up. So he said, no matter what, just always be yourself. So that was the first one. And what I've been able to do for all three of the lessons, I'll tell you the other two in a minute, is I've doubled down on these three things over the last 2.5 years, because Chris had his reasons for the three lessons. And although I understand his reasons and I get his reasons, I wanted to understand what they mean for me and what they could mean for anybody. So what I think always being yourself is truly about that little voice in your head. That little voice, what's that little voice in your head saying to you? And understanding what that little voice in your head says to you, because if you can, that is you, isn't it? There's nobody else that's in your head. So if you can understand that and the impact that has on your behavior, so your thoughts drive your behavior. If you can control your thoughts, then you can influence your behavior and live a better life or achieve better results or whatever that is. So that's what I've taken from always being yourself. And that's why I want to share with people is that always being yourself really is about controlling and understanding that voice and that you can influence that direction. Anyway, so that was the first one. The second one was I went back to see him and he was at the hospital, and I walked in to see him and he went Nash. So Nash is one of our mates. He went, Nash rings me at 12 o'clock every lunchtime, and every time he's on his break, and he comes when he finishes work, and he said, when you're not at client site, you come and see me, whether at hospital or home and stuff. And he says when we were growing up, we could have chosen different friends and things, but they wouldn't have been here now. They wouldn't have ring me at 12 o'clock. He said, so the second thing is just make good friends, because you never know when you're going to need them. You never know when you're going to need those friends. And that I think it's much more than friends. So Chris had his example based on him lying in his hospital bed going, okay, I'm all by myself. If I had different friends, I wouldn't get that phone call at lunchtime. I wouldn't get that visitor in an evening. I wouldn't get that visitor in a weekend. But in life, we're all people and humans, aren't we? And I think whether it's a customer, a client, a peer, a leader, a family member, whether it's somebody you've only met a couple of months ago via a laughing man, I think it's all about connection and relationship, because you never know when you might need them. So when Chris said you never know when you might need them, that is for everybody. You never know how a first conversation might help you in the future. So I think that's why that's really important. So that was the second one. And then the third one was we had the opportunity to go to the, so before no medication and all of that stuff, we had an opportunity to go to the Etihad Stadium. So this was literally 3 weeks before he passed. We had so he bought the tickets before he was terminal, and then the Foo Fighters were due like 3 weeks before he passed. Anyway, so it was at the Etihad Stadium. 8 of us went. Chris, his ex-partner, and his 2 boys went in one car, and 4 of us went in another car. And on the way home from that, his 2 boys dropped him off at his hospice, and then his youngest said, "Is it too late for me dad to go to Anfield with Lee and his boy?" And so I got a phone call at midnight to say, "Is it too late?" Because Chris's lad would really like him to do that. I was like, "Blimmin' heck, we've been asking them so many times what they want to do, but let's make it happen." So that was on the Thursday. Liverpool were amazing. So Liverpool are a football club, by the way.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Liverpool were amazing. So that was on the Thursday. We went on the Sunday. We had a private tour. We could take as much time as we wanted in each of the different areas. We had ice creams. We bought tops in the shop. We had food and had drink and stuff. And on the way back from that, I was driving. Chris was sat next to me. His 2 boys were behind him, and my little boy, at 4 years old, sat behind me. And he looked over at me and he said, "How many times could we have done this?" I said, "Yeah, a lot." He said, "Well, why did we wait until the time when I had to be wheel driving and I was a burden? Why did we not do it when I could sit on the seats that I wanted to sit on?" So he said, the third lesson is time is limited, because you never know. And that really is about creating habits, forming habits, I guess, is just like doing stuff. Now, my biggest frustration is those people that they want to get fitter, they want to get healthier, they want to get better, they want to do something, but only on Monday or beginning of next month or at the start of next year. If you're saying those things, then your reason to do it is not big enough. And that's what it comes down to. When Chris said that, we always had reasons to do something different as opposed to the things that maybe we should have done. So I think if you do want to do something and you don't want to do it now, then you're prioritizing whatever it is you're doing. Is that really more important than what you want to do? Because if you're only going to start it on Monday, the following Monday, the start of the year, then I'd say you need a bigger reason to do it that actually kicks you up the arse. So you do it now, because time is limited. So it was with those 3 lessons, I was sat outside the hospice going, you're a fraud. You're telling your kids every single morning they can be whatever they want to be, and you're not. So in the last 2 years, I have doubled down on those 3 lessons. I have started my own business with Jason. I've started my own podcast, and I'm kind of now, I understand now that confidence is a journey that I've had and that I want to help people with. So I'm going to pause for a breath there, Ricky, because I'm conscious I've not taken one for about 23 minutes.
Yeah, well, firstly, just thank you for a wonderful story. I mean, it can never be easy, probably repeating a story like that that's so emotionally connected to you. So thank you for sharing that. It's a wonderful story, and he sounds like a cracking guy, Chris. He sounds like a great lad. What do you think Chris would say if he was still around now and he saw what you're achieving now? Because let's just be honest here, for people who don't know Lee's pretty much everywhere. He's a cheeky chappy if you haven't worked this out yet. He's confident, he's positive, he's always doing something. He's always on LinkedIn, he's always on Clubhouse, he's always doing something. And I don't know Lee from before, Chris, but what do you think he would say now if he saw you right now?
Shut up talking about me. So, and because I remember stood up at his eulogy, and I delivered his eulogy, and I said that the word that sums Chris up, and he had, there was like the church was packed, and there was people outside and stuff, and I said that the single word and the reason why everybody's in this room today is because Chris is the most selfless individual that any of us in this room have met. That any of us in this room, not one person, if anybody was in trouble or if anybody needed anything, he would disregard anything about himself and always put them first. So the first thing I would say, stop talking about me. Stop talking about him, because he never thought he was special or talented. He was electrical engineer. He worked at Leyland Motors. He was good at what he did, but he would just see himself as a normal, hard-working chap. But I think what he really has got is I think he's got a gift, really. I think when he's reflecting on that stuff, and I'm so grateful for the time and effort he put into those things, and to think about those things, and to back it up with a story of the reason why it was important to him. Yeah. That honestly, somebody referred to him the other week actually as the sleeping partner in my business. And he is, but more than that, he's the sleeping partner in my life, I think. Yeah. So I'm tattooed with the 3 lessons on the outside of my arm, and I've got on the inside of my arm, you can't see if I do this, but there's a little ginger kid walking up some steps at 10 to 8 in the morning. So he's tattooed on the inside of my arm as well. Oh. And he always wanted to, when he was leaving and stuff, he wanted to get people stuff. And I didn't want anything from him, but he ended up getting me a ring with those 3 things that were engraved on the inside of the ring. So I guess to answer your question, he would just say, stop talking about me.
Stop talking.
Yeah, because although he liked being the center of attention in a group of lads, he was not wanting to be the center of attention in a big group of people he didn't know.
Wow. I think you're so right when you talk about the selfless thing, because I mean, no one can imagine what it's like to be at that point when you know that, like you said, when it's terminal, to think that you have set amount of days left on this earth. There's so many thoughts that be running through people's minds about relationships or things you need to tie up. But for him to stop and ask you 3 lessons, that is so. Well, I guess it's the phrase, isn't it? Not all superheroes wear capes, and he is a completely superhero for inspiring you and taking you on this new journey and this transformation, which you're doing a fantastic job. I know that we've connected recently, but even from that, we've now connected with great podcast that I'll edit this bit out because I've just gone wrong there. But my friend Bev, who you know now, Bev Holden, she gets mentioned on the podcast every time. So if people are playing bingo, there you go. There's a line for you. But it just goes to show the testament of relationships. connections, making good friends, and always being yourself as well. Because I've talked about this recently with Alan and Emily from the Yellow Tuxedo. Authenticity, I think, is so key.
Yeah.
And just being yourself. I mean, like my friend said to me, he said when he was listening to season 1, you know, he said, "Oh, great, yeah, I really enjoyed it, Ricky. But by the end of the season, you really came out as yourself, and really, you know, you could tell that you kind of got comfortable with it." And it's just crazy, isn't it? I think that we really need to do more. And again, I know that, you know, I'm a big fan of Andy Cope. Is it 4,000 weeks or something like that? 4,000 weeks we have to live.
Yeah.
You know, so why would you waste any of that? And there's something that was, I mean, it was a conversation I recently had with someone that was having a bit of a tough time, quite annoyed at life and quite bitter and angry. I was like that, you know, a lot last year. And I had 2 family members that passed away. One of them died of like sudden cancer, and one of them had Parkinson's, which was a horrible way to go. But I can sit here and moan about how I'm not getting work, or I can moan about how things are crap. I can't go out. It's pissing down rain. It's cold. It's wintry. You know, lockdown. But I'm sure that my uncle that passed away would love to swap with me right now to still be here with his family.
Yes.
When you think of it like that in perspective, we really do need to focus on being ourselves, enjoying life, and time is limited.
Completely. There's when in one of my courses, group coaching courses, I think it's Paul McGee. I don't know if you've heard it. He's got the sumo book and stuff. And I think in one of his books, he gives you a formula: E plus R equals O.
Yes. So based from Jack Canfield. Yes.
Event plus reaction equals outcome. And I think by understanding that and just framing stuff, so the stuff that happened to Chris was going to happen to Chris. Yeah, lymphoma twice, melanoma once. That's what got him. But our reaction to those things, and Chris being so positive in that, and still being selfless to the end and stuff, that he has left a positive outcome or positive impact on something that is horrendous. So I think that E plus R equals O is so important. And it's just, we are in control of our reaction, even though we think we're not in control of our reaction.
Yeah. Well, it's a choice, isn't it? Absolutely. I had a lot of people say, Ricky, you're always smiling. You're always positive. Of course, I have bad days. I have days where things don't go right. You know, things, like yesterday, tuning in to watch Snowpiercer, thinking I was going to watch the whole bloody season, and it's only released episode 1. That's a crap day, isn't it, Lee? No, of course not. I sound so privileged, don't I, when I say that? But no, like things go wrong. You know, I remember dealing with cancellations and postponements and refunds in my business. It's a horrible thing. But no one wants to see that. We're all kind of going through a tough time. So, you know, I love a good quote. Jim Rohn, he talks about, you know, if you think about the boat, we're all faced with the same winds of opportunity and destruction, but you've got to set your sail. That's how you determine your success. And I think I just want to make a difference and turn up and be happy and be positive. And if it makes someone happy, then that's it. At the end of the day, you know, if I can get out of bed every single day and I'm alive, then that's the main thing, isn't it? Whatever comes from that is bonus.
Completely. Just on what you said about your friend and the feedback that they gave following the first set of episodes.
Yeah.
So I've really wrestled with this always being yourself, because I think you have different versions of yourself dependent upon the situation. So when you think about episode 1, recording it, is it all going to be right? Am I going to push all the buttons? Am I hitting record? You were yourself then. You're just a more confident version of yourself as you've gone.
Yeah. It's more improved version, is it? Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
But it's still you being yourself. The important thing is you're still recording it. You're still asking the questions that you would ask.
Yeah.
So I think you're still yourself, but you're just a more, and I think this is about confidence as well. Experience breeds confidence, because you've done a number of episodes now, so you're starting to become more confident in it, and you don't need to worry about pressing record, because you know that's just habitual, and you'll do that, and all of that stuff. So you're just a better version or a more polished version of yourself in the podcasting world, but you were still yourself in episode 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only difference now, it's like when I'm a magician. Like if you talk to me on Zoom, I talk like this, and then if you see a match, it's like, "Hey, everybody, how are you?" You know, like it's kind of like my voice moves up a little bit of an octave, but it's like you're switching on a character. And I think that's you're absolutely right. It was the same Ricky, but just a more improved version. I've learned from the failures, I've learned from the mistakes to carry on, and we're still here. That's the main thing. It's showing up every day, isn't it? Lee, I think we could talk for hours, but I'm going to try and wrap this up because I think that your story was so important. And one of the questions that I've asked or sent to you before, so to get you to think about this, is how can we make a difference this year? Because I think Chris has truly made a difference to you and all of the others around him, I'm sure as well. What can we do to make a difference this year?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the only thing is, or not the only thing, but I think the thing that is important for me with sharing those three things is Chris had his reasons for those three things. I spent 2 years trying to understand what they mean for me and how I can deliver them in a meaningful way to everybody. But when I say them out loud, always being yourself, making good friends, and time is limited, they will mean something individual to everybody based on their own experiences. So I think those are the foundations for success, whether it's sales, whether it's change, whether it's leadership, whether it's family life or whatever. That's the foundation for me now for everything. But I would just say to make a difference is understand what those three things mean to you as a person. Are you always being yourself? Are you doing your best to make good friends? And if there's something that you want to do, are you doing it? Because time is limited.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
I love that. I think it's 3 life lessons, isn't it? 3 lessons to keep you going. Absolutely. Okay, so last question then, Lee. I've been asking this to all the guests in season 2. One of the things that I talk about in this podcast is about living how to be the best version of yourselves. And I'm talking about the idea of creating wonderful experiences, because I truly think that lockdown has exposed that people have gone back to basics and we're missing out on wonderful experiences. We're kind of just choosing to suffer or choosing to not be happy just because of the way the world is. And like we've discussed, it's a choice. We can decide to choose how we want to, E plus I equals O.
Yeah.
But what do you think we can do to create more magical experiences, either for our customers, in our business, or even just in relationships? What do you think we can do to create a more magical experience this year?
Brush your teeth with the opposite hand. So what I mean by that is if we all become comfortable with change, then we're more familiar with it. So if you wake up tomorrow morning, and if you always brush your teeth with your right hand, brush it with your left hand. If you always drive to work or you walk downstairs, don't walk downstairs backwards because you might get a load of complaints, Ricky. But I would do something different. And then when you're in the office, when you're in work and you're trying to, can you delight your customers in a different way? So can we do something different? Because I think we become quite static in what we do, and just normality just sets in. And I think it's only when we become comfortable with change do we actually know what is possible to achieve. So I would just say push those boundaries, but by starting with brushing your teeth with the opposite hand.
Love that. I love that. That's very good. I'm thinking of something I said before about going around IKEA backwards, doing something different. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So Lee, thank you, mate, so much for coming on. You've got some wonderful lessons and some wonderful tips as well. But I think people need to hear more about you, because one thing that I haven't pretty much said really yet is that Lee also has his own podcast, which is called the Business Problem Solved Podcast. And Lee, how can we find out more about you? Tell us about the podcast, and where can we find more about what you do?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much, Ricky. And yes, so Business Problem Solved podcast is available everywhere. It started off as me trying to help change people, basically me trying to talk my lessons to me. But what is actually, I don't journal at all, but the Business Problem Solved podcast really is a reflection of my life over the last 2.5 years. It's a weekly episode, and I can see how I've changed as a person with the lessons that I've had and the conversations that I've had. So that's my journaling really. So that's what Business Problem Solved is. But I am on all over LinkedIn, Lee Houghton. I'm on Clubhouse at Lee Houghton. I'm on Instagram now because of Clubhouse, which is Business Problem Solved. But I'm trying to be everywhere. But ultimately, so the business is the business that I've got is with Jason is Get Knowledge, and that's just getknowledge.co.uk. So yeah, if I can help or talk or whatever, then those are the places to do that.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. You have an incredible story, and I think more people need to hear about that, because those life lessons are so important right now. Well, they are every day, not just now, but I think it's such an important story. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Good luck this year. Best wishes. I'm sure that we are going to see you excel even further with your wonderful confidence in your business. So thanks for coming on, mate. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Ricky. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Lee, for coming onto the show. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for sharing those 3 amazing life lessons, 3 powerful life lessons we should all live by. Thanks for listening to this episode, and if you did enjoy it, then head over to Apple Podcasts, hit that subscribe button, and leave a review and a rating. It helps to get out to more listeners around the world. Thanks for listening, take care, and I'll join you on the next episode of Unlocked.